on. Be getting started in just a minute or so here. How's it going? Welcome to the Becoming a Bulletproof Buyer webinar series. This is the first session that we'll be doing on this. I'll be keeping an eye on the participants to let other people in as needed. But we'll go ahead and get started rolling here. So we're going to be talking about throughout this series how to save money, reduce risk, and win in Seattle's competitive real estate market. Got a pretty robust agenda, so we'll be moving fairly quickly. We're going to be talking about throughout this webinar series and tonight specifically the overview of the process at a high level when you're buying a house, what to do, when to do it, what to expect, the team that you need to successfully navigate the journey, because buying a house can be quite an adventure, and getting pre-approved, that process, what 4 things make up your payment, talk a little bit about debt to income and a basic credit overview, definitely cover the cost of purchase and what that looks like and some ways that you can handle that. Mortgage tips and hacks, we'll cover some of that, identifying and clarifying your goals and needs, what that looks like, and how to really make sure that you're being efficient and effective as you go through the process. And we'll cover a little bit around different financing and funding sources and types that you can use to secure the deal. We wanted to do things a little bit differently. This is definitely not your mom's home buying seminar. It's a little bit different than what it has been. We want to stay really current with what's happening right now, what you need to do in today's market to be able to win and secure deals for yourself. And so we're excited about being able to share this information with you. Congrats on being here and taking action. That's awesome. Wanting to tap into the power of home ownership, whether you're a first-time buyer or somebody who's looking to get back in the market and been out of the game for a little while, we're going to get you some new tips and tricks, help you upgrade your situation or get into your first house, whichever one works for you. Our mission is really about creating and protecting security, wealth, and community. We do that through real estate. We accomplish that through using our company values that we're all aligned around in this, and using those values to create opportunities for our clients where other people see problems, designed to help them be successful in real estate. Want to suggest to those of you that are here, you take a lot of notes and keep this information, capture it so that you can put it to work for yourself when you are ready to buy, whether you're just thinking about getting into the process or you're in the process right now. Take some notes so you can make sure and retain the information, put it to work for yourself. We will be moving fast, trying to cover a lot of ground in this webinar. Want to be mindful and respectful of your time, though I do have a lot of time that I can spend doing Q&A after we cover everything. So we'll cover the intended outcome that we want you to have as a result of tonight and the series, and a little housekeeping for how to get the most out of this webinar and make it as good an experience as possible for everybody else who's attending. So first thing we want you guys to be able to walk away with on this is to be informed and empowered so you can make great decisions and make them confidently as you're going through this process. We want to give you some tools that can help you make the process easier as you're going through it. We know everybody's not in real estate all day, every day like we are. Maybe once every 10 years, maybe it's your first time, maybe once every 7 years, maybe you're an active investor and it's a couple of times a year. Whichever the situation is, We're going to give you some tools that can help you make the process easier as we go through this series. And we want to help you find and identify the right team. The right team is critical to success in this. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of steps to this process, and not everybody can do it all. So you want to make sure that you get yourself around the right team that is aligned to making the outcome successful for you based on your definition of success and winning at the end of the process. We will have a lot of time for Q&A, so do please try to save your questions if you can. If you don't want to save them and talk about them live at the end, you can use the questions option in Zoom down at your control panel. You'll see a Q&A button. You can open that up, type your question in. I'll see it in the queue. I will probably wait until the end, but I may not, so you can take advantage of that. My preferred method is that you raise hands, and then I can call on you and we can have some dialogue about your question. I make sure I answer it thoroughly and completely. We'll also ask, please do stay muted unless you are actively called on or I call on you and we're having a dialogue so that we can make sure that the call quality is good and clear. Everybody can hear what's going on. I'm sure we've all been on Zoom meetings where there's some crazy background noise or something going on. We want to try to avoid that if we can. If you do end up unmuted, I may just mute you. Just understand it was intentional. I was muting you on purpose. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Don't just unmute and try speaking up unless I ask you to unmute. Thank you. So topics for today, we'll cover this really quick. We're going to go over the overview of the process and the timeline, how to identify the team you need and when you're going to need them, getting pre-approved, what that looks like, when you should do it, why it's important, identifying your goals, your needs for your home selection, making sure that you pick the right place and you don't get caught up and make a really emotional purchase, and that you can act confidently because you know the house you're going after is checking all the boxes. And we're going to cover some different funding sources and types that you can use to secure your house and where you can access them. Quick disclaimer, got to do it. Nothing like a little CYA. First, this is not tax, legal, or financial advice. We'll be talking about some of that stuff, but we're not giving advice here. You should always do your own due diligence, talk to your own professionals, and make the decision that is best for you. No two people's situation is unique. You don't have the same income, the same assets, the same goals, whether it's tax saving or income or appreciation. You want to talk to your own team. Everybody has a different risk threshold. This information is for informational purposes, educational purposes. Only talk to your own team about it. If you got an agent that you're working with, a lender that you're working with, talk to them, verify it. We make no guarantees or warranties about anything that we're talking to you about. It's the stuff that we use for our clients, but again, it's tailored to each individual situation for them. Buying, selling, or investing real estate does have a possible risk of loss, so you want to be careful with that. That's why it's important to have a good team. Make sure that you're doing all your own due diligence. And all the information that we go over here today may not work in your exact area. We may talk about a couple of things that don't work based on a city basis or a neighborhood basis or for the type of property that you want to buy. So we want to give you a lot of information that you can see, would this work here? Would this work there? But you'll want to check and see, does it actually work for your personal situation? Always defer to your team, your local laws. They understand your unique situation better than we can speaking to a broad audience on a webinar. And this is a no BS zone. So we don't want any bullying. We don't want any stupid behavior, people putting each other down in the chat, doing things like that, which I've seen in Zoom meetings before. Haven't had that issue in a while, but I just want to call it out. Like, we're not going to have any of that. We'll boot you right out of the meeting. And to give you some confidence, there are no bad or silly questions. That's another type of BS. There are no bad or silly questions. We're here to help you, to meet you where you're at and help you get where you want to be. So please don't be afraid to ask questions. That's what we're here for. We're going to give you some information, but we want to answer your specific questions to help you move forward. And lastly, the last part of no BS is a little more in the traditional sense. I'm not going to BS you. I'm here to give you real information, real answers, not sugarcoat anything, not soft pedal anything, not to complete any specific agendas. I'm here to try to help people get into the houses that they want to have with as little risk and as little stress as possible. So you might be wondering, who are we anyways, and what is Apex? I'll throw another little disclaimer. I may get a little carried away and use some adult language. It happens from time to time. Hopefully that's going to be okay if it comes up. I'm trying to stay away from it, but old habits die hard, as they say. So Apex stands for Allied Property Experts. It's a little abbreviation that we have, and it speaks to our philosophy and our company name. We're a team of licensed brokers and supporting partners. We have over 30 years of experience just on our team, let alone what all the partners that we work with have to help people be successful. We work out of one of the top producing offices on the Greater East Side. I'm in downtown Bellevue right now in our office, and we work as part of the largest real estate company in the world. We've got offices and relationships in multiple countries, multiple states, multiple cities, tons of training and resources to really stay cutting edge and provide a high level of service to all of our clients. Our team, the direct team, consists of 3 people currently. Amanda Condelius, she's our operations manager and handles all of our client coordination. She keeps the systems and processes rolling to make sure that our clients have a good and secure experience. She's worked all across the country. She's been involved in hundreds and hundreds of transactions. So she is really good at playing with anticipation, making sure that things stay on track, and being proactive around solving any problems that could come up. Alex Liotsis is our lead agent. He is also our friendly Canadian. He loves being out, talking to people, understanding what they want, what they need, showing houses, helping sell houses, telling people about the city, telling people about neighborhoods. So he does a great job as our lead agent, working directly with a lot of our clients as they go through the process. And you might be wondering, who the hell am I? Who's this guy that's talking to me? Why should I listen to him? So my name is Marc Erickson. I'm the founder of Apex, the Allied Property Experts. I've been in real estate for a while. I really grew up in the game. I remember falling in love with it as a kid. My stepdad was a licensed contractor, did a lot of remodels and custom construction. I spent a lot of time working with him. My biological dad was a mortgage lender, so I spent a lot of time talking about real estate. Every house that I grew up in was a really long, slow, painful flip. And as soon as it got nice and my bedroom got done, we moved into another fixer. So I've been around this for a long time. I started lending full time in 2005. That was really my first foray into full time real estate. I'd done some stuff before that, but I was doing residential and commercial lending, taught the Washington State first time home buyers class. And that's why I wanted to do this a little bit differently, in a way that I saw was a little more relevant to what's happening in the market right now, instead of all the outdated stuff that is often taught in those classes. It's good information, but I just like it in a little different format. In 2007, right before the crash, I moved to the investment side, working on a lot of distressed property acquisitions, working with a lot of investor groups, and learning that side of the business. I then went on to co-found a construction company and development company doing remodels, new single-family construction, and built green and net zero energy efficient townhouses in Seattle and Portland. Worked in multiple different markets. I handled all the acquisitions and underwriting to get the projects in, and also ended up running the sales department for that company in Seattle and Portland. I then left and co-founded a coaching and training company that was put together to help people really tap into the power of real estate, focused on the investment side, which is awesome. How to add value, force value, working with people all across the country. I got to look at deals and help people with deals and transactions and achieve their goals all across the country, which was awesome. But I reached a spot where I really wanted to focus more energy in Seattle, especially with the challenges from supply, prices, now interest rates. I really wanted to take all that expertise and apply it in my local backyard, in my community a little bit more. So I left the coaching and training company last fall, been spending a few months getting things ready to go here. And now we're back focused full time on helping clients here and helping agents in the local area. I also handled the training for our office as a whole. It's about 200 agents in the office. I ran all the training and onboarding for new agents and some experienced agents there, and was put on the leadership council for the office to help with the direction and help support and grow the office here, which was a real honor. Real estate is not just my profession, it's really my passion. I love everything that it can do for communities. I love what it does for the economy, all the jobs that it creates, all the work, all the wealth that it creates. I just cannot get enough of it, and love spending time helping people get involved in whatever fashion that they want to get involved in the game. So with that, let's talk about some of the benefits of buying a home and some of the things that I love so much about real estate. First off is the security that owning real estate gives you. And there's a lot of ways that it gives security, but a couple of my favorites are is it can get you away from all the crazy landlords. I've heard so many landlord and property manager horror stories about them just being a nightmare to deal with and showing up at all hours and not honoring the laws, not honoring the rules of the lease. It really can bring a lot of just insecurity and nightmares to your life having to deal with a bad landlord. You also get the ability to really plant roots and be somewhere for a while. You don't have to worry about your lease being up every year. You don't have to worry about big spikes to your rent and rent increases. When you get a house, you know that can be your home for the long term. When you get the mortgage with the house, you know what your payment's going to be for the long term. So it can give you a lot of security by being a homeowner. The pride that comes with home ownership, the accomplishment of owning a home, especially with prices where they are right now, is a huge deal. All the things that it takes can give you a lot of pride about where you're at, about being in the community and being part of a community. Takes decent, at least decent credit, if not good to great credit, solid income, the discipline of holding a job, handling all your business to be in a position to buy a house, and the effort to get the house and keep and maintain the house, maybe even get crazy and improve it, which ties in to the wealth aspect. I love what compound appreciation over time does for people when they own homes. And you look at real estate historically in the Seattle King County area, it's going to double about 10 every 10 years, which is pretty crazy to think about, but it's been historically true. And that's from doing nothing but just owning a home. Like the market does the lifting for you and creates a lot of wealth for people, and being letting people get into that wealth creation, which can add more layers to the security for them, is huge. And that's without even talking about doing things to like turbocharge the wealth creation, like adding value or adding units, which we will talk about a little bit further on in the series. You also get the tax savings. It's not just investors that get tax savings from owning real estate, which can really help with the affordability piece of real estate if you annualize it out, but it can make it so you have to pay less money to the government. I don't know anybody that's ever excited about writing big checks to the government. So that's another huge benefit, is the tax savings that you get from owning real estate. One of my clients, I was just talking to him about a month ago and asking them how they were doing, how their taxes were, and just asked them just out of curiosity, like, how much did you save on taxes because you're a homeowner now? This was the second year. And they said they were saving about $40,000, which was huge. Like that's massive for them. And that's not even an active investor doing crazy stuff with it. That's just from buying their house that they live in. So next slide, if it will open for me. Let me see if I can get it there this way. There we go. Let's talk about the team that you need when you're buying a house. And again, the team is really important in creating success and reducing stress in your journey. First one that you need is the lender. The lender is the guy who handles all the money for you. He is going to make sure that you get pre-approved. He's going to talk to you about how much cash down you need. He's going to talk to you about your payments, the loan programs that you can do. It's really a crucial role as the lender. And that's actually where we suggest everybody formally start the process, is with the lender. Good agents can connect you to a good lender. And it's important that the whole team that you use works and plays well together. So that can be a worthwhile thing to explore and pay attention to, as a lender that your agent suggests. But you should also be welcome to pick your own lender, use the lender that you like, and a good agent should be able to communicate and get in good standing with a good lender pretty quickly. The next people that you want to have on your team are really the inspectors. And there's really two key inspectors that you want to have on your team. One of them often overlooked. First one is the home inspector. They're going to handle all the things with the structure. They're going to look at the attic, the crawl spaces, the roof, the siding, plumbing, electrical, all the things that they can see and test. They will do. They're going to let you know about red or yellow flags that you should look out for on the house. Do you want to negotiate around them? Do you want to offer a price reduction? But you got to get the information to make those decisions. And that information comes from the home inspector. The second one that's often overlooked is the sewer inspector. You want to use a sewer inspector, or at least I strongly suggest it to all of my clients, because it's totally hidden. You can't see a problem without getting it inspected, unless the problem is horrific, which is probably not a house that you would be looking at. But you can't see the problem, but the problem can be really expensive. It's not at all crazy for a sewer line problem to be $25,000. And so it's worthwhile to invest the money to have that looked at. I have somebody that I coached into getting a sewer inspection. They're an investor getting a sewer inspection on every property that they do. They found four $20,000 sewer problems on properties when they were looking at buying them. If they hadn't done the inspection, that would have totally blown their budget, would have put the project at risk from a timeline standpoint. So it's really a good, worthwhile thing to do is get the sewer inspection. If you're thinking about looking at something that's a little bit more rural or outlying property or in Pierce, Thurston, Snohomish, Whatcom, Skagit, you might want to look at a sewer septic inspection as well. Some counties have it required that you have to get a septic inspection. Typically, the seller has to handle that. It's a great contingency to have to be able to negotiate some stuff around or get some time on if the seller hasn't done it in advance. But that is another important thing to do because it's again a kind of a hidden system. It's in a vault, it's underground, but you really do want to get it checked. The new septic system can run up to like $50,000, $60,000. So that's again a big ticket item that you want to be aware of and do your due diligence on. The agent broker is a key member of the team. I don't say that just because I'm an agent. I actually kind of became an agent against my will. I was so unsatisfied with the standards of what I was seeing out there. I wanted to try to do it a little bit differently, coming from the lender and investor background, bring that experience to the space. But a good agent should be a fiduciary and not a functionary for you. That means they should really be putting your needs first, spending time finding out what you really want, how you define success, what you're really looking for, and then making that happen. A functionary is an agent who is just going to do how I define it is the least amount possible for the biggest commission possible. They're the agents who are good at opening doors and taking orders. That's not the agent that I would suggest that you look for when you're looking at a 6 or 7 figure investment in a home. A great agent should also not just help you find the right home and open the doors, though that is important. They should help you negotiate the deal, navigate the inspection, understand what's important, tracking the timelines, giving you a lot of peace of mind, and coordinating the process right up until the very end when that gets handed off to escrow, who we'll talk about now. Title and escrow are two other team members that you'll need. You'll usually get these guys through your agent or the property that's listed. If you're looking at something that's listed on the MLS, the seller can often dictate who title and escrow are. But these are two key players that you'll want to have good title reps and good escrow people that you're working with. Your agent should be keeping in mind, hey, if there's something questionable about these guys, or I've had problems with these guys in the past, you may want to see about switching them, which can be done. Sometimes sellers don't like it, but if you've had a bad experience with them, or your agent or your lender has had a bad experience with them, it's probably worth getting away from them. There's a lot of crazy stuff that can happen in real estate, and having good title and escrow is important. The title company, they research all the history on the property. They make sure tell you what liens are on the property, what encumbrances like easements or things like that are there, view restrictions on the property, are there utility easements, access easements for other people to be able to access your property. Even stuff around here like mine rights that can impact the property. There's significant parts of Issaquah that have old abandoned mines underneath them, and the title policy and the title research will let you know about that information. It has to be disclosed because there is a small chance that things could collapse or shift, which could impact your house, and you need to know that going into the purchase. The escrow company is really like a third party facilitator, is how I look at it. It's their job to make sure that everybody honors and does everything in the contract, and that all the paperwork is good to go and meets everyone's standards. They make sure everything is done that the lender needs done. The buyer gets all their information there. The seller gets all their information there, that everything gets recorded correctly with the county to transfer the title and make you the new owner of the property. They also are the neutral party that handles and holds all the money most of the time as you go through the process. So that's really the majority of the team that you need. However, you could occasionally need a supporting cast outside of that on your team. You may need something like an arborist or a geotech, a surveyor on the property. Maybe there's an easement or a fence isn't built where you think the property line is. You'd bring in a surveyor. A lot of people are doing interesting things and looking at additional units on their land right now. Surveyors and arborists are often important for that. If you've got a big slope on your property, you might want to have like a geotechnical engineer or an architect come out and give you some thoughts on it. So that's a supporting cast, which is another spot where a good agent should have a network of those supporting team members to be able to help you out, get you the answers you need in the timeline that you need them. So let's talk about getting prepared for the purchase while I take a quick sip of water here. And I meant to say pre-approved for the purchase. Why is this first? This kind of frustrates some people around why this is the first step in the process. It has a huge impact and brings a lot of efficiency for you. Certainly, you could say like what I call a soft start for people where they've been looking on Redfin, they've been looking on Zillow, they've been playing with mortgage calculators or doing some research to see where they're at. And you can absolutely do that. But when you're really serious and it's really time to get into the process, you want to start with a pre-approval because it does impact so many things. The pre-approval can impact the home type selection that you get. There are some people are looking at condominiums because they think they're more affordable. That's not always the case when you account for the HOA dues, or if it's a condominium that is relatively new, a complex that's relatively new, it can create a challenge there. So the lending impacts what kind of home are you going to get? How much can you actually get qualified for? How much down do you actually have to put? Getting the pre-approval helps clarify what you can really do, which also plays a role in the area. I've had a lot of clients that thought they had to look in certain areas because they could only afford so much. And once they go through and get a good pre-approval and put a good strategy together with the lender, and they understand the different levers that they can use to control their qualification amount, they can actually get into areas that they would really like to be in. And I've had the opposite happen. People get their heart set on one area, and then when they find a house they fall in love with and they go to get pre-approved and work fast to write an offer, they find out that there was some glitch or issue on their credit. I had one that there was a misreported item on their credit that they didn't know about, and it cost them a house in an area that they liked because they didn't get it fixed in advance. We got it fixed, got them taken care of, but they didn't get that first house that they wanted because they didn't know about that and they hadn't gone through the pre-approval process. It can impact your shopping timeline. Are you ready to go right now? Are there things that you want to do or you could do to get in a little better position? If you don't start getting pre-approved, you're not really sure how fast you can act, what you can do, and it can weaken your offer and cost you a deal because you didn't start the pre-approval process soon enough. Inventory is tight right now. There's not a lot of it out there. Getting pre-approved sets you up for success should you find the place that you like and can tell you how fast can you operate. So it impacts the timeline of when you're doing things, and it impacts the type of offers that we're putting together in the negotiation of those. There's a few different levers that you can use as a buyer when trying to negotiate a great deal. We're going to talk about that in the final webinar. And understanding what those are and which ones you're able to use and how far you're able to move them can really help you win an offer. I hate winning deals on price. So having good pre-approvals, understanding the whole picture and the whole situation really helps set us up to negotiate effectively, to do some little creative things that we can do things to win an offer. I won an offer for a client 3 weeks ago. It actually is closing today. They I didn't know we were closing today, or I would have scheduled this webinar for a different day so I could be there to hand off keys. But I'll have to do it late tonight now. But we won an offer and actually got the house for like 20,000 less than they were willing to pay. And it was a multiple offer situation because we were able to use some of these other levers and I knew what they could do. So it's important to be pre-approved and understand exactly what you can do to be able to negotiate effectively. So let's talk about what makes up your payment, some tips and some hacks for you to consider when thinking about things. First, I wanted to break down, people often ask like, what makes up my payment? What is it? And there's a term or industry jargon that gets thrown around. Your pity payment is what your mortgage lender is typically going to be talking to you about. and it covers most everything. It covers over 90% of the situations, but it doesn't cover all of them. So I'll talk about those couple outliers as well. The first thing PITI stands for, it's an acronym. It stands for principal. That's the amount of the loan that is paid off monthly. Then the I is for interest, the amount of interest that you pay monthly. Combine those two and you get the PI part of the PITI payment. T is for taxes. Property taxes are paid 2 times a year here in Washington, April and October. But the taxes, most people put them into the mortgage. That's a suggestion that we have, that you just put it into the mortgage payment and you don't have to think about it anymore. The mortgage takes 1/12 of the taxes every month, saves them up, pays them when it's time to pay them, and you move on. Insurance is the same thing. Your homeowner's insurance split out monthly so that a little chunk is going every month, and then the mortgage servicer pays the mortgage for you, the insurance for you when it's due. Some banks will give you a little bit of a discount, or the opposite of that, charge you a penalty. You can get a discount from some lenders, depending on how they set their pricing, if your taxes and insurance are in the payment. Other lenders will charge you a little bit more if your taxes and insurance are not in the payment, because they get more security for their collateral, right? The house is their collateral if they have to take it back. They want to know that the taxes are getting paid, because taxes are one of the only things that can jump in front of a mortgage and foreclose them out of the house. So if the house goes to foreclosure, they may not get paid back. So they're really sensitive to taxes. And insurance is the thing, because if the house burns down and you can't pay for it, or gets flooded or something happens and you can't pay for it and there's no insurance, you may end up just defaulting on the mortgage, and they don't want to take the house back. So they can incentivize those behaviors through how they compensate in their pricing. Put an asterisk in here for the couple other things that I mentioned that make up the other like 10 or 15% of transactions as you are looking at what consists of your payment. These don't typically fall into the payment, and you'll want to make sure that when you're talking to your lender about how much your payment is going to be, that all the things you're going to be paying every month are included. One of them is PMI, which is another acronym. It stands for private mortgage insurance. This is typically done with many low down payment programs. So things like an FHA loan, if you've heard of that, or other low down payment programs will add what they call private mortgage insurance until the loan to value gets in a different proportion, and then you can ask to have it removed. I'll talk a little bit more about that proportion in the next slide, but these are really the things that make up your monthly payment. The PITI payment plus PMI plus potentially HOA dues, homeowners association, if you're looking at a condo or a planned unit development or some of the developments that are out there now. So let's talk about some things that you can do to kind of reduce your payment. Some of these are going to be pretty obvious. Some of them are just ways to reduce the overall payment for the house as a whole. Some of them are a little bit more creative. So the first thing you can do to reduce your payment is put a larger down payment down, or go for a longer term. I talk to a lot of people that they don't want to get a 30-year mortgage. They want to do 15 or 20-year mortgage, which gives you a higher payment. A suggestion that I often talk to them about is, hey, get the 30-year loan so you have the lower payment standard, the lower payment expectation, but you can always pay at a 15-year payment rate when you want to, and pay the loan off in that time frame anyways. So that can be a good way to go to give yourself a little flexibility and options instead of being obligated to do the higher payment. An interest-only loan, and this is not the big scary loan from the 2007, 2008 crash. Just doing interest only is a great way to reduce your payment. You still get all the lift of appreciation. You still get all the tax benefits of having a mortgage, and you can still get a fixed rate. You're just only paying the interest every month, not the principal. Some people don't like that because they're never paying the house off, but the truth is most people are selling every 5 to 7 years anyways, and you don't pay a ton of principal reduction in that time frame. You can still get some good appreciation. It doesn't let you create quite as much equity, but if you're payment sensitive, an interest only loan could be a good option for you. The other thing is to be proactive and get your credit dialed in, which is another reason why it's good to start the pre-approval process early. And by getting your credit dialed in, I don't even necessarily mean you're somebody in the 500s trying to get to 600s. you could be now the banks will put a new tranche in or a new baseline for a credit reward at like 760. So you might be a 718 and you might be able to make a couple little tweaks that we don't have the time to get into all the ways to manage your credit here. You might be able to do a couple little tweaks and get to that 760 number and save yourself in interest rate, which can be a lot of money over time. Another thing that can save you a lot of money over time, a lot of interest over time, or make the payments a little bit more manageable from a budgeting standpoint is to pay bi-weekly, to pay it every 2 weeks. You'll actually save a ton of interest over 30 years if you do this, because you're getting an extra payment in basically every year or even two, paying every 2 weeks instead of every month. So it's a great trick there. And it can take some of the lumpiness out of your monthly budgeting by having a smaller amount coming out more frequently instead of a big amount one time a month. You can do an interest rate buy down. We're having some great success with this in the market right now, especially in the current interest rate environment. There's two types of buy downs in my experience. One is the long-term fixed rate buy down, where you pay some money, and instead of, let's say, a 7.5% interest rate, you get a 7% interest rate for 3 years. The other one is a short-term buy down, which will be a program like a 3-2-1 buy down that we're doing a lot on a project that we have right now that we're selling in Seattle, where your interest rate may be 7.5% fixed for 30 years, but you buy it down in this program. So your starting interest rate is 4.5%. Then it goes to 5.5. Then it goes to 6.5. And then finally it sets at 7.5. This can be a great program if you really think that interest rates are going to go down and you want to have a few years to be able to refinance into lower rates. Can also be a great program if you're anticipating your income going up a bunch. You know you've got raises coming, you know you've got some bonuses coming. You can use the 3-2-1 buy down to kind of step up into get more comfortable with higher payments. Can be a great option. And then another thing that's not often talked about, but is a brilliant strategy, I think I put the asterisk there because it's one of my favorites, is to do something called a house hack. And that can decrease your monthly outflow by bringing additional income into the property itself. You can use this strategy a bunch of different ways. You can do it on a SFR or single family residence, or up to 2 to 4 units. One way that people house hack is like buy a duplex or add a additional rentable unit in the basement and then rent that out and use that income to offset their mortgage payment. Same with the duplex. You could buy a duplex for a similar price as your house and get the rental income and cut your mortgage significantly. This is a great strategy to consider, especially if you are a little more payment challenged, if you're a fixed income, things like that. It's going to be a great way to supplement and make things more affordable for you. So let's transition in and we'll talk a little bit of timeline and process for you. So let's first get clear around how to start the timeline and what you're counting when you talk about the timeline. It's really hard to account for how long does it take you to get pre-approved and what are you doing in the pre-approval process. You can get pre-approved in as little as an hour or two for a basic pre-approval, so it can happen really fast. But if you need to do some work or adjust some things, it can take a little bit longer to get the pre-approval that you want to have. So we can't map to that or put a system to that on a blanket basis. We also can't account for how long is it going to take to shop and how aggressive are you going to be. We have some clients who are out looking at houses almost every day and all day on the weekend with us or on their own. They are looking to move fast. They're motivated, trying to make it happen. We can get those guys in contract in a couple days and start the clock. Other clients are moving in from out of state, looking for second homes, and their motivation isn't as high. They're looking for a really unique unicorn property. We have somebody right now that's looking for $5 million waterfront, low to mid bank within an hour of the airport, saltwater preferred. That is a pretty small target to hit. Takes a while to find those opportunities. So that is hard to map to when you're talking about the timeline. We're assuming no builder terms or land deals here that often have longer timelines to allow people to get through permitting, more inspection stuff, things like that. We're just talking a little bit more about the typical process, kind of a cookie cutter deal. We won't get into post-possession in the timeline, but what that is when a seller needs a little bit of time after closing to move out of their house. Maybe they want to sell their house before they buy the new place. They'll stay post closing and maintain possession of the property. We won't cover that here. And then lastly, the timelines that we're going to be covering run concurrently in the process, meaning they all run at the same time, basically going through. So you might have 3 timelines happening at the same time, and they might all be different lengths of time, which will probably make more sense to you in just a second. So we start our timeline clock and setting timeline expectations from mutual, which is when you get in contract with the seller, until closing, which is a set date in the contract. Mutual is when you reach a deal. So even when you're offering and negotiating, you're still not mutual. Mutual is when you reach a deal. Most of the timelines right now are about 30 to 45 days. That's a pretty typical closing timeline. They can get out to 60, 75, but that's a little slow right now. They can get as fast as 20. That's pretty aggressive. Getting inside of 20 days on a traditional transaction is really fast. There's a lot of things that need to happen. So let's say it's a 30 to 45 day closing, which would be a set time. I'll pick 30 days for this exercise, as that's the clock. You're buying the property on the 1st. Let's say you get in contract tomorrow. You're closing on May 30th. That's a 30-day timeline. Here's how the process would work for you. The first kind of contingencies and milestones that you want to track are the basic contingencies. Things like the title inspection period. That's when you get to go through stuff and look at the title report, ask the title officer any questions that you have for further clarification, get the earnest money deposited to the escrow company, and handle any inspections come up. These are the most typical contingency items. That period is usually 3 to 10 days. The little asterisk, as earnest money is usually deposited with escrow within 2 days. Then escrow holds the money as you continue to clear contingencies and move through to closing. Then they give it to the seller. That's a typical process. 3 to 10 days for these inspections. The faster you can move through these, the more competitive your offer will be. And sometimes you can't even get an inspection contingency or things like that, which I won't spend a lot of time on here, but we can get into in the question and answer period. I will be digging way more into inspection timing and waiving contingencies in structuring winning offers, the pros and cons that you need to be aware of. Then you kind of move forward to finance and appraisal as the next set of contingencies. So that's 20 days. So again, when you get in mutual on the 1st, your inspection contingency might be up on the 10th. That's that 10-day window. And then your finance and appraisal is up on the 20th. It doesn't go until the 10th on inspection, and then 20 more days for the financing contingency. It's 20 days from the start of the contract. That's when your lender is finalizing all the conditions. They're getting updated pay stubs. They're getting updated tax returns if there's any. They are verifying all the information. They need to know what property it is. They're making sure it's a property that they want to lend on. They're doing all of that stuff in that 20-day period and getting the appraisal done. Now, again, none of this is written in stone. It's real estate. Everything is negotiable. These are typical transactions, typical timelines for you to work through this process. So then at the 20 days, the lender clears all the conditions. You can waive financing. Waiving is when you say, all right, I'm waiving inspection. That means I no longer have an inspection contingency. I have no problems. I'm moving forward with the transaction. I'm waiving appraisal. The appraisal is good. I've waived the contingency. We're moving forward. I'm waiving financing. Financing is good. We're moving forward to closing. When you are waiving contingencies, a good agent should be telling you, hey, you're about to waive contingencies. This is when your earnest money is going to go hard, or what we call non-refundable. And when it's going to get really hard to get back from the seller, they should be calling that out and really checking in with you. So that's the 20-day contingency. Then you're going to move into the next stage, which is what we call docs, walk, and sig. So that is when escrow starts getting the documentation from the lender. The lender creates all the notes and deeds and all the stuff, getting the updated title documents, getting all the things they need, and coordinating those. Walking the property and getting final signatures. That is when you and the seller would sign the paperwork. This one doesn't run from the contract date. This one is based on closing and goes backwards. So, and it's not really a contingency. It's just a stage in which things happen, because people always ask about this. Like, When should I be ready to sign? Do I get to do the final walkthrough? Do I get to do this stuff? And then when does it close? Usually 1 to 3 days prior to closing is when we try to set the transactions up to have all the documents in from the lender, the signing appointments scheduled, and everything ready to go. Perfect for us. If we were closing on the 30th on a deal, we would want to do the final walkthrough around the 28th in case there is anything wrong. If the seller hasn't cleaned out the house, if something got broken, if repairs were needed and haven't been completed, we have a little bit of room to get them finished before we close. So we like to have that buffer. And then we would like to have our side, our clients signed 1 to 2 days before closing as well. So all their paperwork is done, everything is done, and we only have a couple little things left that we have to wait to happen. We don't even have to be involved in to close the transaction. That's when it actually becomes your house. And that will be on the 30th. That is the deal that is closing today. We got everything done in advance. Our buyer came into our office here and signed their paperwork yesterday. The seller signed everything yesterday. The buyer got their money to escrow yesterday. The lender gave their final clearance yesterday. So this morning, all we had to do was release to record the title transfer to the county and disperse funds, which is awesome. So we get those emails. Nobody has to do anything. There's no scrambling. That's what we like. Keep the process really stress-free. Get the email, recording numbers are in, the deal is closed, and we go meet the buyer, give them some presents, give them the keys, and let them start enjoying their new house. That's the last day. So now you see the timeline a little bit. You understand what you need to do. When you're really aggressively shopping, home buying is a much more emotional process than a lot of people think or give it credit for. What we have found is a great tool for our clients is to get really clear on their wants and needs and to have a lot of those conversations. Now, they'll often massage them or refine them as they go through the process, but starting with a clear expectation that they can make sure they're making good decisions with, that can remove uncertainty from them, and can help us find them the right property has really been important and effective, and that they really love. So what I would suggest for you is that you make a list of 5 things that you have to have in your house, absolute must-haves. And I would say it's a kind of a best practice to have these things be really expensive to account for or incredibly hard to fix your must-haves. Things like what area is the property going to be in, right? You can't move the property to an area. You can't do an addition that'll give you an area. Bedrooms, bathrooms, those are important must-have things. It might have to be in this school district. It might have to be in this neighborhood. It might have to be in a really walkable location because you don't have a car. But what are those must-have items that you have to have? Identify those 5 things, share them with your agent. And then what are your top 5 like to haves, right? You can have a little fun with this, but maybe keep it within the realm of reasonableness. But things like, okay, I would like to have a view property, but I don't have to. I would like to have a hot tub or a pool, but I don't have to. I would like to have a 2-car garage, but I don't have to. Those are all important things to keep in mind and account for. Maybe you do have to have a 2-car garage, right? So maybe that goes in the have to have, but do keep that in mind. What are the things that you would really like to have? And then the third thing is, what are 5 things that the property cannot have? Absolute deal breakers, non-starters. What are 5 things that you don't want anywhere near your property? Maybe you don't want to be on a busy street or have a bus stop right in front of it. Maybe you don't want to be under the flight path at SeaTac Airport. One that often gets overlooked that I have learned to pay attention to on every property is the big high voltage lines. You know, the ones that like buzz in the rain with the big towers in your backyard. I always look at that because that's a deal breaker for almost everybody. If you're ever looking to get a house on a discount, look for something by property lines because those sellers usually are having a hard time selling. You're responsible for your own health benefits there, though. But identify those things that you cannot have. They're often easy to see and screen for before you take the time to get in the car, fight traffic, and go look at the house. You can go on Google Maps and see from the overhead view, are there any power lines? You can go on the street view and go to the end of the street and see, like, might I have a view somewhere here that I want to have? But you can do a lot of research from your computer or from your phone before you go look at the properties and save yourself a lot of time. Then when you're getting more serious about the property, check it on the list. Bring the list with you when you go to open houses or go tour properties. Does this have the must-haves? Does this have the wanna-haves? Does this have any of the things that I absolutely do not have? And confirm that. Can help you move with confidence. It can help you get through the properties faster to make your home buying process a little bit easier. Let's move into the financing and funding types. We'll move a little bit more quickly here. So to clarify some terms that you'll hear in the process, costs are generally considered to be the purchase price, the closing costs, and the inspections and appraisals. Those are costs that are typically incurred by a buyer when they're looking to buy a house. All of them have to be funded or financed. The purchase price usually consists of a down payment. That's cash from you. That's the down payment, and a loan. Most people are not doing cash purchases. Whatever you're hearing in the media is not true. Most people are not bringing all cash to deals. Does it happen? Yes, but it is very rare. Even investors very rarely bring all cash to deals. There's a little nuance in that, which I won't spend time on, but most deals are made up of down payment and a loan. You want to remember from a cash management standpoint to account for the closing costs. So you're buying a house for $500,000, you will have a down payment and a loan to equal the $500,000, but there's closing costs stacked on top of that that you will usually need to handle for cash, but we will talk about some other ways that you can do that in just a minute. So when you're talking about loans and down payments and how much do you need, there's a number of different typical programs that you can go for. 97% loan, 3% down purchase. That's an FHA program, very popular, great for first-time home buyers. They have a great rehab loan product as well if you want to do a value add, and you can do them on 2 to 4 unit properties. It's a great way to get into a property. Even if you have a lot of money, you can do it with a little bit of cash and keep more cash in your bank account. Very similar with a 95.5 property. When you do a 95% loan and 5% down, that can save you some money from interest rate and private mortgage insurance versus FHA, but it can be a little bit harder to qualify for. The most typical process that everyone does is an 80-20, where you put a 20% down payment and get an 80% loan. So a $500,000 house would be a $100,000 down payment with a $400,000 loan. That equals the 500,000, and then your closing costs are on top of that. If you're an investor trying to do a deal, usually you're going to be capped at 75% loan amount or loan to value with 25% down. There are some 100% loan programs out there. The VA does 100% loan, which is awesome. Love VA loans. Those products get people into houses. They also have a rehab option for them. And USDA loan, which is not nearly as well known by people. It's designed for more rural properties. It's USDA rural loan, but you can do custom construction. You can buy vacant land and build your dream house using a USDA loan. So it is really cool. It has some unique qualification stuff, but it is a great loan program. We are actually I just became aware of a new 100% loan product that has no private mortgage insurance. It's killer. I'm super excited about it. I'm still reading through all the information on it. I'm going to be doing some more stuff for a project that we're selling in Seattle right now that I think it is a great fit for. It has some geographic restrictions, but you can get into that house into that type of loan with truly zero cash. I mean, zero cash. You bring no money to the deal because you can do 100% down. The lender will give you a $5,000 credit and the seller can pay up to 4% in closing costs. So in the property that we're going to start trying to use it for, you can get almost $30,000 in prepaids and closing costs and interest rate buy downs with 100% funding. So you can be in this house $0 cash. It's an amazing product. I'm so excited that we found it, because normally you have to pay the down payment and closing costs in cash. And a lot of people don't have cash or like to keep their cash in the bank. That's what I like to do. I like lower down payment programs because I like to have my cash and not have it sunk in a deal in case something happens, in case I want to go on a vacation, in case I get another opportunity. I like to have it, so I don't mind making a little higher monthly payment to be able to have access to the cash. And being able to get into a house with no cash, with no mortgage insurance, 100% financing is an amazing deal if you like to keep some money in the bank for emergencies. Another thing that can help you keep some money in the bank and help you manage your cash are the grant and down payment assistance programs. And welcome to those who are joining late. Glad you're here. Thank you for making the time and making your journey into home ownership a priority. But you can do grant and down payment assistance programs. There are some challenges. Not every lender is good at them. Not every lender likes to do them. There's more paperwork. There's a lot of qualification stuff that you can do. Sometimes the appreciation that you can get is capped. But if it can help get you in the real estate game, then it is a great way to go. A great organization for you to do some research with is called WashFIC, Washington State Housing Finance Commission. I put their website there on the screen for you. They have some really amazing programs. I've been fortunate to work on some custom programs with them. Some of the built green development that I was doing a few years ago. Great organization, great opportunity. They can get you grants, down payments, gift funds, pretty crazy, creative second mortgages that you can do. Really cool resource. Couple other ways that you can get some help with down payment or funding your property are seller, agent, or lender concessions. I mentioned the lender concessions a little bit with the loan program that we have. We actually now have 2 lenders that will do a $5,000 credit on that particular project, and we can apply that to a few other projects that are around as well. So that's 5,000 in free money right there. The seller can contribute some money potentially. I love creating seller concession structures for people. Again, keeping cash in their pocket is the thing that I really like to do. And the agents can offer some concessions, which we have been known to do on occasion. Those can come in the form of cash or other things. Right now, we've got a deal closing in a few days that we're buying a washer dryer for as part of the concessions to try to make the deal and keep everybody happy. So that's another way that you can get some help with funding the down payment, closing costs for your transaction. And the last one that people usually use is gift funds. Doesn't have to be a family member, but is typically a family member. Has to be a true gift. Some people have got in trouble because they've tried to get cute and say, oh, say it's a gift, and then we'll record a mortgage afterwards. Well, that can make you default on your first mortgage, create instant foreclosure, could become mortgage fraud. So don't do that. Gift funds are a great way to go. If you can get a true gift, it needs to be a true gift. There need to be some documentation of where the funds came from. There's usually a gift letter, pretty straightforward. Your lender that you're working with can help you navigate that if a gift is the thing that you are interested or could use in your home buying process. So let's really quick cover what we did and what's coming up next. So we covered the home buying process and the timeline, some of the typical milestones that you go through, covered the team that you need at a high level. We will be going deeper into what to look for, what to ask, who you need, when you need them, what they're doing in the next webinar. We covered some pre-approval and payment tips and hacks. We'll also be digging further into that in future webinars. Wants, needs, and funding types at a high level for all of those. We'll be taking things a little bit deeper. We're introducing some stuff to you guys here. And we'll be getting much deeper around wants and needs in like home and neighborhood selection. What are some of the pitfalls? What are some of the opportunities? What are things that may not be so obvious to you to look for or to keep in mind as you're shopping for your house? Still to come, we're going to be again digging into how to target a terrific team, how to put them together, what to look for in the home and neighborhood selection, and what I'm most excited about, the winning offer strategies. What are some things that you can do that aren't just throw money at the problem, that aren't just win deals with price? How can you set yourself up to win a deal using some terms? How can you set yourself up to win a deal based on when you write the offer? We'll be sharing more about that coming up. And now we got some time for questions as I promised. So I will turn the deck off and stop the screen share and see if anybody has any questions. If there are no questions in the next minute or two, I'll let you get back on with your evening. You can use the raise hand function or the chat for questions. I'm not seeing any right now, which is okay. Maybe that means I did it perfect and nobody has any questions. So I doubt that's not the case. Don't be shy. Really do ask questions. If you have questions and you don't want to ask them here, please reach out to us via email. You can email hello@apex-re.com. Hello at apex-re.com. Send your questions. We're happy to respond to them there. Be doing the next seminar, same time next week. Can't wait to see you there and get into that information a little bit further. For now, we will wrap it up and I will let you get on about your evening. Thanks for being here.